Today we'll be looking at the banker's acceptances. The banker's acceptances. So, what is a banker's acceptance? It is simply a short-term debt instrument guaranteed by a commercial bank, usually used in international trade, as well as domestic trade. A BA is essentially a time draft that is drawn and is accepted by a bank, promising to pay a specific amount at a future date. So these are mainly used when the importer's credit worth is uncertain. So as a bank, they will guarantee payment to the exporter. So features of a banker's acceptance is number one, it is used in international trade to facilitate payments for goods before shipment or before delivery. Secondly, it's a bank guarantee, meaning the bank can accept the responsibility for any future payments, thereby reducing credit risk for the exporters. Bankers' acceptances also are short-term in nature, ranging within 30 to 270 days. They are discounted instruments that are usually sold at a discount in the secondary market. So these are tradable and can be sold before maturity to obtain immediate cash. Bankers' acceptances are slightly higher than treasury bills due to potential bank default and are generally low. So there are steps that are involved in the transaction of bankers' acceptances. The first being that the importer will first request for an irrevocable letter of credit from its bank for the exporter. Then the exporter will then ship the goods and present the letter of credit to and the shipment proof to its bank. Then number three, the exporter's bank will create a time draft, and this time draft is later sent to the importer's bank. Then the importer's bank will accept this time draft and will stamp it as accepted, creating the bank's acceptance. And so, number five, the exporter's bank will hold a BA until maturity or sell it at a discount in the secondary market. So the importer finally will deposit funds in its bank to cover the banker's acceptance at maturity. So this is a procedure of the transaction. So the yields on bankers' acceptances. So the return is simply the difference between the discounted purchase price and the payment received at maturity. So like a commercial paper, bankers' acceptances are sold at a discount. So the yield is annualized using a 360 or 365-day period, depending on the market conversion. So we're going to look at some computations. To compute the yield on the banker's acceptance, it's a difference between the discounted purchase price and the payment received at maturity. So like a commercial paper, banker's acceptance is sold at a discount and annualized using a 360 or 365-year period as our base. So the yield for a banker's acceptance is maturity value minus purchase price over purchase price times 360 over n, can multiply by 100 as a percentage. So where n is the number of days to maturity and p is the purchase price paid on the banker's acceptance. So we are going to look at some questions to do with the banker's acceptances. So more or less, the questions will be similar. So suppose an importer sells a banker's acceptance with a maturity value of 100,000 to an investor for 98,500. The banker's acceptance will mature in 60 days. So calculate the yield. So the yield is the maturity value. Maturity value in this case has been given as what? 100,000. So that's 100,000 minus the um, purchase price. So this is the purchase price. This is maturity value. And that matures in a 60-day period. So this is our n. So 100 minus 98,500 over 98,500 times 360 over 60 times 100%. So this gives us and 99.12%. So why is a banker's acceptance important? It is used for immediate payment for exporters. Here, cash is received even before the goods are sold. It also reduces foreign exchange risk because the exporter is paid in domestic currency by the bank. So there's no need to access the importer's creditworthiness. The bank is the guarantee that we need. It is tradable in secondary markets because it provides liquidity for exporters or investors. The banker's acceptance is very important in those respects. So we're going to look at questions from our module. All right. So that is the formula that we are going to look at. So we can go to an exam type question on the banker's acceptance. Question number 1, outline the 4 steps involved in banker's acceptance. What are the 4 steps? So these are exam type questions. I've just rearranged them based on based on the specific order. Okay. So banker's acceptance, we already talked about the 4 steps that are involved. Number 1, we said the importer will request for an irrevocable letter of credit. Then secondly, the exporter will ship the goods to present the letter of credit as shipment proof. Then thirdly, the exporter's bank will create a time draft, which is sent to the importer's bank, who will stamp it as accepted. And the importer's bank will hold the BE until it matures or decide to sell it at a discount in the secondary market. So this is how it goes. Okay, so let's look at some of the questions below here. Okay, so the questions below here. That's for practice at the end of your chapter. So question number 1 reads as follows. Question number 1 reads as follows. Why exporters prefer banker's acceptance over a direct payment from importers? So exporters will prefer banker's acceptance because they reduce the payment risk associated with dealing with direct importers. Here, the bank is the guarantor. So there's credit enhancement because when a BA is created, the importer's bank will guarantee payment at maturity. So this means that the exporter no longer depends on the creditworthiness of the importer, but the bank. And banks to be their credit worth is higher. The second reason is liquidity. Exporters can sell the BA in the secondary market before it matures at a discount. So this will allow them to receive immediate cash instead of waiting for it to mature. And certainty of payment. Banks are highly regulated and reliable, so exporters would trust the bank guarantee more than an importer. And lastly, because of what? Risk reduction. So exporters are protected against default risk, political risk, and foreign risk issues since the payments are through the banks. The second question is, we have a BA with a maturity value of 50,000 and is sold for 48,000 with 90 days to maturity. What is the annualized yield? What is the annualized yield? What's the formula for the yield of the BA? Maturity value minus what? The price over. We got the formula. The yield, maturity value minus purchase price over purchase price times 360 over n times 100. So what are we given in this case?
We have the maturity value and the purchase price. We also have the number of days.
Okay. We have the maturity value. We have the purchase price. We also have the number of days to maturity. So we multiplied by 100. So what do we get? So maturity value minus purchase price over purchase price times 360 over n times 100. So if we're going to calculate that, we're going to get something like 9.8%. Okay, this is based on, that's what we're just from discussing. So the base here is with the purchase price, not the face value. So we're given the maturity value, which is 50,000, the purchase price 8,000, and the days to maturity is 90. So the yield is the face value minus the purchase price over purchase price of 360 over days to maturity. You can put it times 100 if you want to leave it percentage. Okay, so this is 50 minus 48 over 48 times 360 over 90 times 100. So we get 9.8%. So literally, these are the same questions that we've been doing, but in a different context. Okay. Are we together?
Yes, we are.
Question number 3. What are the main risks of holding a BA? What are the main risks of holding a BA? So the risks that are involved in holding a BA, number 1, that to do with what? Associated risks of holding a BA, credit risk, of liquidity risk, inf inflation risk. So all these risks are there. Those that have the pamphlet, go through, everything is there. Just to discuss them quickly. The credit risk, well, the bank will guarantee payment if they're accepting bank defaults. For instance, there's banking insolvency, it may face or lose out. Liquidity risk, BAs are traded in the secondary market. So if the market demand is low, an investor may struggle to sell it quickly. Interest rate risk, the interest rise, the value of the BA will fall. Foreign exchange risk, in international trade, BAs are denominated in the foreign currency, so investors can face currency fluctuations. And also operational and legal risks, so mistakes in documentation and disputes in international trade rule, contract delays and complicated payments. So these are the probable difficulties that we may expect. Then describe the steps involved in issuing a letter of credit being sold in the secondary market. What are the steps involved in issuing a letter of credit in secondary market? So steps as follows. Number 1, the process includes you having a trade agreement. So the importer and the importer will agree on the terms. In the letter of credit, the importer will request their bank to issue a letter of credit guaranteeing payment. And then, in creating the draft, the exporter will ship the goods and withdraw a time draft, an order to pay in future, for instance, 90 days. Then, step 4, acceptance by the bank. So the importer, a bank will accept the draft, written accepted, converting it in a banker's acceptance. Okay, binding it legally, bound to pay. Then number 5, the exporter will make payment. So the exporter can either hold a BA until it matures or can sell it in the secondary market. So in the secondary market, that's where investors, being banks and corporations or money market funds, who buy the BAs as safe short-term instruments. So lastly, but not the least, compare the credit risk and liquidity of a BA with that of a TB. Compare the two. So we can compare them many aspects in terms of credit risk, liquidity, yield, as well as market preference. A TB and a BA. So a TB in terms of credit risk is backed by government, so it's considered to be risk-free, whereas BA is backed by commercial banks. So some credit risk exists if the bank defaults. Government cannot default. Secondly, liquidity. So TBs are highly liquid. They have steep active and are active in the secondary markets, whereas BAs are only in money markets and they are less liquid compared to TBs. So liquidity depends on the demand. And the yield for a TB is low since there's no risk at all, whereas risk is high here because there's some slight risk. The market preference for a TB is prevailed by investors, banks, governments, whereas market preference for BAs is usually for international trade platforms. So this is where we end in terms of the banker's acceptance. So we end here.